Hey, guess who didn't take 2 months to upload a video this time? Hello everyone, my name is Blue Raven 666. Yes, I am jumping on this bandwagon and talking about Encanto, which I got to watch on Disney Plus in early January. Yep, I was late to the Encanto party then, and I'm late to the Encanto party now, but my previous video literally took me 2 months to put together. Cut me some slack. I don't think I've come across a single person that didn't enjoy something about Encanto. I really enjoyed it. I liked the story, the characters, loved the music, and I also like how Disney is making movies that focus on real-life issues and seeing how their characters overcome them, rather than just defaulting to their usual theme of reimagined fairy tales and anthropomorphic animals, and live-action versions of their classic movies. Encanto has themes that focus on family, high expectations, intergenerational trauma, and different perspectives. Things that children all across the world could be dealing with right now or might find themselves struggling with in the future. Frankly, I don't want to talk about all that, especially since Encanto is set in a country and a culture that I know very little about. That being said, I hope I don't offend the entire country of Colombia with this video. I just want to make some lighthearted content, nothing too serious, while also getting into some witchy content. My channel is going to be banned in Colombia, I can just see it. For those who might be new to my channel, I'm a witch and pagan, and there were a lot of things I couldn't help but notice and relate to when I was watching Encanto for the first time. Not a lot of people know this, but there are many different types of witches out there. From those who practice witchcraft on their own, to those who are part of a coven, to those who pass their skills and knowledge down to the next generation, there are a lot of different types of witches, and a lot of the characters in Encanto share some very specific talents that apply to some of the types that are out there. Just because I feel like it needs to be said, I'm not saying that the characters from Encanto are witches. They have gifts that were bestowed upon them when they came of age, from a miracle that Abuela Alma was given after her husband was taken from her, and that is entirely different. I just thought it would be fun to look at these abilities and see where they would fall in the types of witchcraft and types of witches that are out there. Okay, so first up we have Mirabel, Augustine, and Felix. Now, you're probably wondering, what do they have to do with magic or witches, given that they have no gifts? These three characters would be referred to as normies, the non-witches. As a witch, I have noticed that other witches tend to look at those who aren't witches with just a smidge of annoyance. They feel like non-witches can't be trusted with the knowledge of their craft, like they'll judge or persecute them, or that they aren't really all that much help and will just be in the way. You see where I'm going with this? However, I feel like Mirabel, Augustine, and Felix represent the best that non-witches can offer to those who are witches. I think we can all agree here that Felix is best husband, aside from Pedro. He loves and supports his wife Pepa, and he doesn't seem to dwell on the fact that she has a gift while he doesn't. For some witches and pagans, that kind of love and support is hard to come by, and is an absolute blessing to receive. Augustine. Accident-prone, but he means well. He even makes the statement to Mirabel that being surrounded by the exceptional as someone from outside of the family with no gift, it was very easy to feel unceptional. But he helps where he can with what he has. A lot of non-witches are like that. I've read so many comments from people telling me, man, I wish I could do all the stuff you can do, and I found myself thinking the same about witches more skilled and experienced than myself. But non-witches are able to be helpful to witches if they at least know what's going on. Even if they make a mistake, they're not useless and don't deserve to be made to feel like they are. Sometimes just having that extra set of hands to fetch supplies, or like with Felix, offer that support, can make so much of a difference. In my own opinion, Mirabel plays one of the most important roles a non-witch can provide to anyone who practices any form of witchcraft, and that is grounding, offering a perspective of someone not worried about spells working, or if they're being hexed, or if something was a sign or not. Put another way, they bring us down from the magical high, and brings us back to the real world. Can it be annoying at times? Sure. But witches need to be able to put the mundane before the magical, and sometimes that's something that's difficult to do. So having someone there that can actually see what you can't can be magical all on its own. So the non-witches definitely deserve a place in this video. I said what I said and I ain't taking it back. Abuela Alma was difficult for me to pinpoint. She doesn't really have a gift, but is the keeper of the miracle that was given to her at the time of Pedro's death. The closest comparison I was able to come up with was a combination of a ceremonial witch and a coven-based witch. Ceremonial witches have specific rituals that they use to call upon the spirit world. This is also referred to as ceremonial magic or high magic. When Abuela's children and grandchildren came of age, they underwent a specific ceremony led by Abuela in order for them to receive their gifts. In the context of coven-based witches, this would technically put Abuela Alma in the role of the High Priestess, who leads a larger group of witches whose combined abilities produce bigger, stronger spells that hold the potential for a better outcome for the group as well as others. Better than what they'd be if they were on their own. Abuela utilizes the gifts of the Madrigal family to serve her community, and while doing this puts high expectations and a lot of pressure on the rest of the family in the movie, the family's strong bond and them working together to rebuild the casita at the end of the movie shows how strong the Madrigals are when they aren't just relying on one person to do all the work, do all the healing, or maintain their image. So, while it might be a bit of a stretch to officially put Abuela Alma into either category alone, the combination of both ceremonial and coven-based parallels were the closest to what I could come up with for her as a character. Mirabel's mother, Julieta, was actually very easy for me to pinpoint. She's able to heal physical injuries with her cooking, ranging from something minor like a cut, to bruises, to multiple bee stings, to a severely broken arm. Julieta fits in well with the role of a kitchen witch. Kitchen witches use specific herbs and edible ingredients to make edible spells and homemade remedies for a wide variety of different ailments and purposes. This could be anything from something for like good luck and happiness, to curing minor afflictions like using honey to soothe a sore throat, or ginger to help with colds, flus, and settle an upset stomach. And no, kitchen witches cannot cure a severely broken arm by whipping you something up in their kitchen. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Take yourself to the hospital. Like Abuela, Pepa was also a difficult character for me to define. There's not exactly a type of witch out there that brings about sudden changes in the weather according to their mood or their emotions. That's normally associated with spirits and deities. Honestly, the best I could do is put Tia Pepa in the category of a hereditary witch. Technically, any Madrigal with a gift could fall into this category, as hereditary witches have knowledge and skills that were passed down to them from previous generations, and can pass down those skills and knowledge to the next generation. But as far as the weather is concerned, I've got nothing. Dolores was another type of character that I was able to establish a connection with pretty immediately. And with Dolores, it's not so much the type of witch that came to me, so much as it was her gift aligning with an ability that many types of witches have, and that would be the ability of clairaudience. Dolores hears everything. She can hear a pin drop, she can hear people talking a mile away, she covers her ears to cope with the noise of cheering and cracks appearing in the casita's walls, she can hear the rats that are in the casita's walls, and she was able to hear Augustine whispering to Mirabel from the other side of the freaking house. And to a certain extent, those are the types of struggles that people with clairaudience struggle with. Speaking from my own personal experience as a clairaudient person, picking up the enraged venting of a deity, the barely intelligible whispers of a disturbed spirit, or the things that go bump in the night aren't really things most people are able to pick up unless they have clairaudience. And even then, as other Encanto fans have pointed out with Dolores, we don't always pick up on everything that could possibly be heard because we tune it out, or our abilities wane, or some other reason. Encanto producers have stated that Dolores' hearing isn't as selective as it might seem, nor is it as selective as she would like. And it can be the same way with clairaudience. So even though I couldn't align her with a specific type of witch, there are still some witchy abilities that give her a place on this list. Alright, I'm pretty sure I know what a lot of people are probably thinking when I say witchy abilities and shape-shifting. A lot of people have a curious fascination with the, I'll say imposters of Algonquian and Navajo culture. Someone politely yet firmly asked me to avoid saying the names of these creatures as it made them and the people of their culture uncomfortable, and I'm going to do my best to respect those wishes. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about right now, let's just refer to these malicious spirits as imposters for the sake of this topic. And no, I'm not going to be that person that calls Camilo one of these imposters. Not even close. He uses his shape-shifting abilities to help others as well as for fun. He's only a teenager, so he's going to be playful and mischievous, but he never does it with the intention of hurting anyone. He shifts into the form of a new mother in the Encanto to care for that mother's new baby while she gets some rest. He turns himself into a smaller version of Felix to try to boost Antonio's confidence before his gift-giving ceremony. He turns himself into Mariano to tease Isabella. Even in We Don't Talk About Bruno, he only shapeshifts into Bruno to freak out Mirabel. Nothing malicious, just taking certain aspects from the people around him and applying them to his own practice. And this roughly describes the Eclectic Witch, taking certain practices, spells, rituals, protections, etc., and applying them to your own unique form of witchcraft. Witches do have to be mindful when they're doing this to make sure they're not appropriating the cultures they borrow from. If you want to apply the threefold law while you're contemplating spells, while using rune stones, while believing that the earth and everything in it is just as alive as you are, that's great. But leave white sage out of your practice unless you're native. Use a more abundant plant for cleansing, like pine or lavender. Antonio can fall into two categories of witches, animistic and the baby witch. Baby witch is just a term for someone who is new to the craft and trying to gain their footing. Antonio is the newest member of the Madrigal family to receive their gift. But if I'm being honest, he takes to his new gift like a fish to water. We really don't see him struggle to get a hold of his abilities, and goes from being unsure and anxious to riding on the back of a freaking jaguar in a matter of minutes. So I feel less inclined to automatically label him as a baby witch just because he was the most recent character to get a gift. Tonito's already got this, you guys. Tonito's got this. Animism is the belief that all things, from people to animals to trees to mountains and beyond, all have a life, a spirit, and play just as much of an important role in the life of the world that surrounds us as the people we interact with day to day. Think Colors of the Wind from Disney's Pocahontas. While Antonio's gift would focus more on the animal aspect of this belief and practice, I could see him showing the rest of the world that surrounds him with a greater amount of respect in service to those animals. Next up is Luisa, and like with Peppa, her gift doesn't really line up with a specific type of witch. No one type of witch is specifically defined as being the strongest physically or magically. However, there is a specific role that an experienced witch can fall into that can lead to the individual feeling stressed and under pressure like Luisa. These witches are protectors, guardians who use their abilities to protect their loved ones from harm with a number of wards and spells. All throughout the song Surface Pressure, we see many examples of Luisa's immense physical strength and how hard she pushes herself and is willing to push herself in order to protect her family, including her little sister Mirabel. While it is partially Abuela's fault that Luisa is under so much pressure to begin with, the fact that Luisa bottles up her stress, frustrations, and own personal needs until she finally blows up is also something that can apply to a protector, guardian type of witch. These individuals are typically the ones people turn to if they can't find a solution on their own. They're looked at as these incredibly strong witches who know just the right spell or protection to get the job done. If that witch's magic fails or backfires, not only is it jarring for the person requesting the witch's abilities, but it can also be jarring for the witch themselves, especially if what they're being asked to do comes across as no big deal, something simple, something that they do for others all the time. Just like with Luisa, if they feel like their abilities can't stand up to what comes across as a simple request, they may begin to feel powerless and start questioning their worth if they can't help protect the people that they care about. It's always the strong ones you gotta check up on. They could be struggling way more than you realize. Alright, I'm gonna come right out and say it. Figuring Isabella out was tough. At first, I wanted to place her in the category of Green Witch or Hedge Witch, but that didn't feel quite right. I was going to throw her into the Hereditary Witch box with Tia Peppa, but I just thought that there had to be a type of witch that could describe her and her gift, and this one's also going to seem like a bit of a stretch, but I think I found a place for her under the category of a Solitary Witch. Solitary witches have been the subject of a lot of scrutiny and controversy within the witchy community in the past. As the name implies, solitary witches tend to work alone and keep their own personal practice to themselves. There are plenty of witches out there that think a witch is not a witch until they've been initiated into a coven. If you're not a part of something bigger, then you're not valid. This is another one of those types that could technically apply to any of the madrigals, especially Luisa, now that I'm thinking about it. But I feel like Isabella fits here too. As we saw in Encanto, Isa is under pressure to always be the picture of perfection for Abuela. She was almost engaged to a man she didn't want to marry, and grows increasingly irritated with Mirabel for getting in the way, and was most likely frustrated that Mirabel wasn't put under the same amount of pressure as the rest of the family. However, it was when she blew up on Mirabel that her emotions allowed her to create something other than one of the beautiful and perfect flowers she'd produced all her life, and this inspires her to actually explore the full extent of her gift. As a solitary witch myself, I can say that's exactly what it's like. It's fine to be a part of a coven, just like it's okay to be a part of a close-knit extended family. But if in doing so you feel heavily restricted, like you're not reaching your full potential, while at the same time being under tremendous pressure to live up to someone else's expectations, sometimes it's better to break free from the box you're being forcibly shoved into and branch off on your own. I'm not saying that covens are unhealthy, and from what I'm aware, most are capable of maintaining healthy relationships and clear communication, but just like some people work better on their own rather than in a group, a witch doesn't need to be part of a coven to live up to their full potential. Sometimes all they need is a little nudge from somebody else. Now, let's talk about Bruno. Honestly, I feel like this entire video could have just been him and him alone, but I also know that there are other characters in Encanto that people like that also apply to this topic. Obviously, it goes without saying that Tio Bruno is the clairvoyant, or the fortune teller. There are multiple specific types that Bruno could fall under: ceremonial, solitary, green. There's a lot we could dive into here, but for now, I just want to focus on the fortune-telling aspect of his character. Throughout a major portion of Encanto, Bruno is made out to be the bad guy, the black sheep of the family. Even in the first song we get, we're told, we don't talk about Bruno. If he has a vision about someone, it's going to be something terrible. From Camilo's perspective, it's almost like he's made out to be this sort of boogeyman that actively seeks to terrify other people. Of course, now we know that Bruno never meant anyone any harm, especially his own family, and if he struggled with getting himself to see the full extent of a vision because he saw something he knew people wouldn't like, then it's also likely that he could offer the people the vision that was for a more viable solution. But you know what they say, don't shoot the messenger. Now, as someone who reads tarot and tells people's fortunes, I've often gotten the comment that my fortunes felt very vague and more like advice than me actually telling a fortune. And let me just say, there is a very good reason why. As it was described to me by a more experienced tarot reader, if you follow through with telling a person's fortune exactly as you see it, you're basically carving it into stone. Now, that might not sound so bad if the reading is good and has a positive outcome for the client, but if the reading involves something like literal death, physical death, that's not something you just want to be handing to someone all willy-nilly. For the record, yes, there is a combination of cards you can get in a tarot reading that signifies literal physical death. It could be for the person getting the reading, it could be for a person related to the person that's getting the reading. Either way, telling that person, word per word, what the cards are telling you in that scenario would be like handing them a death sentence. Instead, you give them advice on how to avoid the outcome, or how to better prepare for it if the death is not the client themselves. And this is why I believe Bruno gained such a bad reputation. He handed his visions off to whoever they were for, which essentially set those fortunes into stone. If he pushed himself to see more like he did with Mirabel, then he might have been able to see ways those outcomes could have been avoided. Instead of saying, "Your fish is going to die," maybe he could have said, "Stop dancing around with the goddamn fishbowl. You're making him dizzy." Instead of saying, "You'll grow a gut," he could have said, "Stick to a healthy diet and exercise routine as you get older so it won't catch up with you." Instead of saying, "All your hair will disappear," he could have asked if male pattern baldness ran in this man's family and look into remedies to at least slow the process. These fortunes allow room for the people getting them to either follow through with the advice and change their fate, or to keep going down the road that they're on, resulting in exactly what was seen. It can be a hard thing to do sometimes, but whenever a witch is doing any form of divination, they should always leave the space that's needed for a person's fate to change. Otherwise, a witch could end up with the same reputation as Bruno. Okay, so this video got a lot deeper and heavier than I intended it to, but again, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone's culture with it. I just thought it would be a fun topic that I hadn't seen anybody discussing yet. Anyways, that'll be all for this video, you guys. Thank you for watching. For the record, videos should be coming out a lot more frequently than they have been. I was kind of in a slump throughout 2021, and now I'm starting to get back into the swing of things. Let me know what you thought about this video down in the comment section below. My name is BlueRaven666, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!